Centerpiece, the show dedicated to fighting on the front lines of political hypocrisy, exposing the lies and false promises of our leadership. And now your host, the voice of reason, Nick Messer.
Hey everyone, welcome back into the studio here with us. This is another episode of Centerpiece. I am Nick Messer, the voice of reason, coming at you here from freezing cold Rensselaer, Indiana. Joined in the studio today, Mina's with me. She's been taking care of hosting the show for you guys every other week, while my work schedule does not provide for me to be able to be here to produce an episode for you every other Saturday. So, big thanks and a lot of kudos to her for taking care of that each week. I do appreciate that. We're going to be talking about a few things that we've got going on in the news spectrum here this past week. Not all of it is actually political this time around. We'll be talking about the Mars Rover. Have you heard anything about the new Mars Rover yet, Mina?
I've heard a little bit.
Little bit?
I've heard, not so much heard, but I've seen some pretty funny pictures people have posted. I think the last picture I saw was E.T.
Yeah. I've seen quite a few of those memes on Facebook myself. One of the ones that I saw was they sent back an image and there was a Dollar General already on Mars.
Yeah, as if we don't have enough of those already here.
I mean, let's... folks, if you're out there and you're listening from the Midwest area, let me tell you that you can literally go on a road trip and drive and there will be a Dollar General just in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
They just pop up everywhere.
I mean, that's how I know I'm getting close to my sister's house, because there's a Dollar General right there, right after her road. So I'm like, oh, Dollar General. I turn here.
Yeah.
The only thing out in the middle of nowhere.
Right.
Is a Dollar General.
My sister-in-law lives in a town in central Illinois that is so small, the entire town has a Dollar General and a Casey's.
And if you blink,
and that's about
it. Miss it.
Yeah, and if you blink, you'll miss it, because it's off of the main highway. You'll get past it quite quickly. But yeah, so the new Mars Rover that just got there is the Perseverance rover. And it took the rover 7 months to make the 300 million mile. I wrote it down wrong, unfortunately. Let me get back to the article. I was reading about it. 300 million mile journey. Yes. And this new rover is a technologically updated version of the last rover we sent to Mars. So the last rover that went to Mars, which it was a big story when that rover quit working, because there was a major dust storm, and the solar panels that powered the original rover, the first rover we sent there, got covered in dust and quit functioning, and the battery ran out on the rover.
Yeah.
NASA tried for several months to get the rover to wake up, hoping that like a windstorm or something would blow the dust off of the solar panels and it would charge. Unfortunately, they haven't heard back from Curiosity. So they sent Perseverance on a seven month journey with updated technology. So we're starting to actually see some of the first color images terrain from Mars, which is really kind of interesting. I was actually quite surprised about it, to find out that Mars isn't red like they show it all the time on media and stuff.
Yeah.
It's like a giant beach. It's brown.
Yeah, it's more like a brown sandy color. I mean, it's not really like sandy, but it's very like desert like.
Yeah. It's not the typical like red that we would like that we picture when people talk about the quote unquote red planet.
Right.
So the Perseverance rover, which is the new rover, has a partner. I don't know if you knew about this, Mina, but the Perseverance rover is not alone. It carried with it the Ingenuity helicopter.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Yeah. So they're going to be able to... Perseverance has 23 cameras, all in high def color. The main camera is 20 megapixels. And they used the cameras on the Perseverance rover to actually record the landing as it was passing through the atmosphere and whatnot. Now, it's going to be some time before we get the videos because they've got to make a 300 million mile journey. You know what I mean? The lag's going to be really, really, really bad on that video.
Right.
So it's going to take some time for that video to come through. But yeah, you can go on, Google it, look it up. You know, the with this new information that they're receiving, especially these new images with them being of much higher quality, they are quite excited over there at NASA.
Yeah.
To learn a bit more about the planet. They're questioning like some of the rocks that they're seeing in the pictures, whether they're volcanic or sedimentary in origin. That was the deputy project scientist Katie Stack Morgan. She said that, and they would be very excited to find out that it was either one. So they actually used the high-rise camera on the orbiter, and they were able to actually take pictures of the rover actually going through the atmosphere, as you can see here, Mina. So it's a pretty cool thing, you know. We've made our trip back to the red planet, taking us one step closer to Elon Musk's dream. I mean, he said he would like to die on Mars, just preferably not on impact.
Right.
But yeah, they got a plan. They're going to set up what they call the helipad zone for the helicopter Ingenuity. Ingenuity hitched a ride under the belly of the rover, and will be the first time mankind has had powered flight on another planet. So that's kind of cool. Apparently, it's going to take a couple of months before the helicopter is ready to.
Yeah, because it says it's going to remain attached to the rover for 30 to 60 days.
Yeah. They gotta check on. It says they gotta do some checks on the rover's surface flight software. They're looking for a quote-unquote helipad location. So they got to find a good spot for it to deploy the helicopter, and then so the helicopter can take off and land.
Right.
They will video Ingenuity taking flight. I don't know if Ingenuity has to return back to Perseverance to like recharge or anything like that. So I'm not sure how that's all going to go down or how long Ingenuity's actually going to fly for. But Perseverance is going to be taking core samples, which they're saying will be returned to Earth around 2031. So, from what I'm understanding, Perseverance isn't going to stay on Mars like Curiosity did.
It doesn't seem that way, no.
It doesn't seem that way. It seems as though that this rover is actually going to come back. It's going to be bringing back pieces of the red planet with it when it comes back. I don't know if they've got some sort of system set up where they're going to be able to launch the core samples into orbit around Mars from the rover or something like that. I have no idea.
All I can tell is that from one article it says that the helicopter's batteries will be charged solely by its own solar panel.
Okay.
So, I don't know, because it says, like much of the 4-pound rotorcraft, this 6 lithium-ion batteries are off the shelf. It currently receives recharges from the rover's power supply. Once Ingenuity is deployed to Mars' surface, the helicopter's batteries will be charged solely by its own solar panel. So, I guess we'll have to see.
Well, that's kind of cool. I wonder if the solar panel is in a position in which, should it, there be a dust storm or something like that.
Well, I mean, to me, the way it looks like the solar panel is at the very top of the copter itself, and then the blades lie underneath that solar panel. So I don't know.
Maybe the blades can produce enough disturbance to clean the solar panels off. That would be
because that's one thing that we don't really know. I mean, I know that's one big thing that they're sending all of these robots there for, is we don't know the type of weather conditions they have. I know we've seen multiple times from the other rovers that they do have dust storms, massive dust storms, but
yeah, they do have quite a few massive dust storms. That's what took out the Curiosity rover,
right?
Because the solar panels got covered in dust.
It's just kind of questioning is how are these rovers going to be protected?
Yeah, I wonder what they've got going on. Is it maybe they've got you would think it'd be some way if you could fold the panel up.
Maybe, like some sort of smart technology.
To protect it so that it's not always out and open and deployed. They could be folded up. Possibly. And stored inside the rover. Dust storm passes, and then the rover could redeploy the solar panel at that time. Provided it had enough battery power to do so.
Right.
So, one of the next things I wanted to touch base on this evening was this week was a bit of a dark time. I guess you could say. The passing of Rush Limbaugh.
Oh, yeah.
Rush passed away at the age of 70 from lung cancer. And I mean, we want to talk about Rush a little bit on the program tonight because Rush is I guess you could probably call him the grandfather of conservative talk radio. I mean, he really paved the way for shows just like this one. Shows like...
He's been called the doctor of democracy.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard him say that.
Yeah.
But heard that said about him. Really, honestly, a lot of people credit him with the reason why the GOP is the party that it is today.
Oh, yeah.
To a degree.
He revolutionized the media and the political landscape. I mean,
Rush Limbaugh was an influencer before the advent of social media.
Right. And he was so good at, one of the big things was that he was good at not only talking about politics, but talking about, bringing people in. The way he told the story.
Right.
How he initiated and told the story. It wasn't necessarily just every day. It was talking about politics and this this fact and that fact. It was a lot of it, what he talked about was like listening to a story.
Yeah.
But he did, I mean, he was... unparalleled is all I can say.
Right. and that's the thing. Whether you're a liberal or a conservative, whether you're left wing, right wing, it doesn't really matter. We need to be able to step up and acknowledge these persons, whether you agreed with him or didn't agree with him. It doesn't change the fact that that man was pivotal.
Yeah.
In the market, the radio market. I mean, he didn't just open doors for conservative talk radio. He opened doors for political talk radio in general.
Right.
You know, you wouldn't have...
And he talked about cultural issues, social issues. I mean...
Right.
He had a very satirical sense of humor as well, so...
I mean, you wouldn't... Without Rush Limbaugh, you wouldn't have the Don Lemons and the Tucker Carlsons and Dana Lash and Ben Shapiro or anything. Those people wouldn't...
I mean, you've got to...
may not exist.
Give credit where credit is due, you know?
Right. You know, like Albert Einstein paved the way for oh shoot, I forgot his name. It just went
just kind of like out of my brain.
So he was a genius.
Don't ask me.
Was in a wheelchair.
Stephen.
Yeah, Stephen.
Okay.
Stephen Hawking. Wow. I mean, I was just reading an article earlier. That saying that some of the long-term effects, one of the symptoms that says that you may have previously had COVID is a lack of being able to remember things. So,
well, that might be my issue then. I don't know, because I forget a lot of stuff all the time.
But yeah, I mean, very much the same way that like Albert Einstein paved the way for Stephen Hawking, Rush Limbaugh paved the way for a lot of people who are out there trying to get a message to the people out there, a message to the masses. You know, a lot of us want to talk about the things, especially on this show, we want to talk about the things that mainstream media likes to sweep under the rug and cover up.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's inconvenient to discuss it politically in some way, shape, or form. Whereas, regardless of what our views here are on this show, we will discuss both the convenient and the inconvenient truths.
Right.
As a matter of fact, there's a story, there was a shooting at a gun store in Louisiana. And we'll talk about that here in a little bit.
Okay.
But, to continue on with Rush, did you know Lauren Boebert? She was asking, she asked the administration to lower the flags to half staff.
Oh, yeah, I did
for the passing of Rush Limbaugh.
I did that. I did see that, yeah.
And they ostracized her for it.
Oh, yeah, I know. I saw that.
Which I thought was a bit on the ridiculous side.
Well,
I mean, we often lower the staff. We often do the lower the flags to half staff over the government buildings there in Washington D.C. when a lot of pivotal people pass away. Trying to find the article here about what they had to say about Lauren, but they actually quite often do that.
They do, but in this day and age, the way it is now, and I think a lot of people can agree, if you are Republican, or if you are conservative, if you are mildly conservative, even if maybe you're libertarian, if you are not a Democrat, if you do not have Democrat views, if you do not hold liberal views, they could care less about you. They don't hold you to. They don't hold you to anything. They have no respect for you, and it's a sad world. I mean, we're in this age of, if you don't have the same views as a liberal, if you don't have the same views as a Democrat, you are immediately looked at as an outsider, as a bad guy. You're a terrorist, or a terrorist sympathizer, or something like that. It doesn't make sense nowadays. But yet we are going to all hail. I shouldn't say we are going to. People are going to all hail a president who has just recently come out and said that we are no longer an America first country.
No, we're not.
So
Biden already proclaimed that when he went and spoke with at the G7 summit on climate change.
Oh, I know. So, it's for me, it's not surprising that they would feel that way. Especially with it being Lauren Boebert who actually requested it in the first place, because they hate Lauren Boebert.
Oh, yeah.
With a passion. They do.
Because she won't take their stuff.
No.
At all.
No.
Period.
And I love Lauren Boebert. Oh,
she's
love
like
her.
5 foot nothing, 100 pounds if you threw a bucket of water on her. She's a little tiny thing, but man, she is a firecracker.
Yeah, she's fierce.
Absolutely.
So, and I love her. But it's not surprising. And I could care less what any of these hating people have said about him or her, to be quite honest. Now, I know you're going to read them and whatnot.
Right.
But
I mean, just as an example of, and these aren't just hating people. These aren't random people on Twitter. This Democratic Representative Ruben Gallego of Arizona said, "You didn't call on President Trump to ask him to lower the flag for the officer killed during the January 6th insurrection, but you do for a divisive figure."
Well, that's because the officer, it actually came out, when they actually went in and did all of this, when they did the, what's the word here?
Investigation?
Yes, thank you. The officer killed during the insurrection, or so-called insurrection, he wasn't killed because of that. He, from the investigation and everything that they found, he had a stroke. He had a stroke and died. Okay. So you cannot tell me that he was killed when he had a stroke.
Well, I mean, did the beating bring on the stroke?
But from all the investigation, not one of the officers were said or even shown to be being beaten on.
Okay.
So I don't understand.
I mean, that's something. This is the first I've heard about the stroke, so I would have to dig more into that myself.
I mean, I kind of watched. I watched all of the footage that was shown throughout the impeachment and everything.
Okay.
And I still have yet to see any footage of an officer being beaten with whatever they said a fire extinguisher, but I have yet to see any footage of that.
Well, just Rob Fournier. He's the former Washington bureau chief for the Associated Press. Okay. Which is where all the news networks get their news from, the Associated Press. He said the flagstaff your comrades used to beat a cop, terrorist sympathizers don't get to be pious.
Yeah, I don't understand some of these people's tweets.
George Takei, who is a major activist for LGBTQ rights, he says, "You shouldn't be calling on anyone except your lawyer, given your questionable campaign travel reimbursements, which just happened to be enough to pay the tax liens you owed. Sit down." Chicago Sun-Times columnist Richard Roper said, "I'm calling for the mayor of Crazy Town to build a statue in your honor." This is the things that they're saying in response to her. Hey, Rush Limbaugh was a pivotal person in politics and in our society. You know, we should recognize that.
Well, here's the thing. Let them talk, because they show their true colors. Those people, Democrats, liberals, people like them,
right,
saying these things, they show their true colors about the American people.
Well,
and how they feel about the American people. Because there are many Americans who love Rush. There are many Americans who didn't see Rush as an icon or a public figure or anything. They saw him as a friend.
Right. Well, and I mean, and that friendship goes back all the way to like the Reagan era.
Oh yes.
So, but you know, all I have to say is to all these people who want to bash on her for that and talk about how bad Rush Limbaugh was and how divisive he was, all of them can sit down and keep quiet until they go after Joe Biden for supporting how China is treating the Uyghurs.
Oh, they're not going to, because they love that kind of stuff. These are the same people who are okay with... These are the exact same people who are okay with child porn being on Twitter. So, no, they don't care.
Yeah, they don't get to... As far as I'm concerned, they don't get to say anything.
No.
Because their hypocrisy has been on full view since the election.
It's thick, and it's so easy to see, and it's actually comical at this point, because they literally just go foot mouth. You know, they literally have no clue how to not make themselves look stupid.
Absolutely.
The biggest, like I said, the biggest thing is these people are okay with child sexual abuse material circulating on Twitter.
Right.
They're okay with the things that are happening to
the Uyghur Muslims in China.
Right. Well, they're considering them like the religious.
Well, it doesn't change the fact that. Yes. The CCP, the Chinese Communist Party, oppresses anyone who doesn't agree with it.
Right.
Period.
They're okay with that. They're okay with Black Lives Matter wanting to attack Israel. That whole article that I sent to you.
Yeah, you talked about that last week on the show.
No, I didn't talk about that.
Oh, you didn't?
No. They're okay with attacking... These are the same people who are okay with attacking the Christian faith. So, if you want to talk about terrorists, sympathizers, then you go right on ahead, because you're describing yourselves.
Right.
That's simply what you're doing. You're describing yourself. And honestly...
I mean, at this point, I just want to look at him and say, pot, meet kettle.
Oh, yeah. So, yeah, I mean, it's kind of like every time I see somebody make a tweet like that, it's like, whew, you just put your foot in your mouth again.
Right.
So I've gotten to the point now that I've learned that you can't respond to these people, because they have their brain and their fingers on the keyboard it doesn't coincide.
Right. Well, I mean, when you try to talk to some of these people, you try to explain, you got a better chance of convincing this wall.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Because they don't care.
Right.
You know, because somebody somewhere out there is going to reinforce their beliefs.
I know, my 16-year-old, or not my, but our 16-year-old, happened to jump on and started reading some of the tweets and things that were going on with the whole Texas thing and the Rush Limbaugh thing, because she she knows how I felt, how big of a fan of Rush that I was.
Mm-hmm.
So and to see some of this stuff, she's like, these people are sick. These people are absolute, these people are going to hell. Is kind of like what she said. And yeah, probably. More likely.
I mean, yeah. Well, it's that time again. So we're going to go ahead and step away and take a short break here, and we will be back with you here in a minute.
Jason Reeve, the host of the American Gun Show here, inviting you to listen to our new show, Current Pulse. Join myself, Mina May, Nick Messer, and Samantha Reeve as we discuss top stories, political hypocrisy, and even stories you might not have even heard about. It's an open discussion of facts, not fake news like CNN and MSNBC. Join us on the weekly podcast, Current Pulse, right here on Spreaker.com or your favorite podcast provider. Are you a constitutionalist and fan of the Second Amendment? Then you need to listen to the American Gun Show, hosted by me, Jason Reeve, the voice of freedom. We talk about laws, training, and everything in between. Find us on the Firearms Radio Network, iHeartRadio, and every podcast platform. The American Gun Show. Our rights, our fight.
All right, well, that does it for our obligatory ad break there. So, the next thing we would like to talk to you about is shooting. This is reported from ABC 25 News down in Louisiana. Shooting at gun store in Louisiana involves multiple deaths, law enforcement says. I'm just going to take and just pretty much read the article here. Officials say multiple people are dead after a shooting at a gun store. According to Jefferson Parish Sheriff Joseph Lopinto, 3 people have died and 2 were taken to area hospitals in stable conditions. At this time, Lopinto says it appears a suspect shot 2 victims inside the location, then was engaged by 2 customers and shot outside the location by multiple other individuals. The suspect is one of the deceased on the scene. The Jefferson Parish Sheriff's Office is investigating the shooting in Metairie, which is a New Orleans suburb, at the Jefferson Gun Outlet. The shooting happened around 2:50 p.m., according to a release from the Jefferson Parish Sheriff's Office. Law enforcement sources say that some innocent bystanders were shot. Sources say he entered the gun store with a loaded weapon, unholstered. And it was because he got into an argument with a clerk who told him who had told him he could not have a loaded gun until he got inside the range. They had an actual firing range inside the store. Apparently, one of the front of the store, entering through the front of the store, that's where the sales desk was. That's where you could go buy ammunition and so on and so forth. And then they had a side door which led directly to the range, which you could also get to the range from the store. Right. And many of the people actually, it says, customers who want to frequent the gun range generally go around to the side entrance of the building. So, with where we stand on the Second Amendment, this is one of those uncomfortable situations. This situation has just put a round in the magazine of liberals in order to take another step and take another stab at our Second Amendment rights.
Yeah.
Because this guy who instigated this shooting in Louisiana absolutely 100% did everything that we are against. As far as he did everything wrong. Mm-hmm. Everything wrong.
I know.
And he's an idiot.
There are big differences between, and this is, it's never going, it doesn't matter what it doesn't matter what you do. It doesn't matter how many laws you put into place. There is always going to be bad people who get a hold of guns.
Right.
You're gonna, I mean, and taking, I think the biggest thing is like they're even talking about trying to take guns off the street completely. And the problem with that is also is you're still never going to get them fully off the street because you still have the black market and everything else.
Right. And
so
somebody somewhere out there is going to sell you, if you have enough money, they will still sell you a firearm. Like that there will be a way to, I mean, there is gun run, unless you absolutely 100% destroy every firearm in the world, in the entire world. Bad guys are going to get guns.
But here's the thing. I understand why now this, of course, now in this day and age, why this is making headlines and making news and everything is because we have so many anti-gun groups. We have so many, we got Moms Demand Action, all these
You're right.
anti-gun groups.
Yeah, the head of Moms Demand Action lives like 2 hours from here.
Yeah, I know.
Mind you, she wants to ban guns, but her property is guarded with armed security.
Yeah, I know. I mean, if I could have armed security around my family as well, I'd be okay with, you want to take guns off the street, go ahead, but give me your, you pay for my armed security, I guess. Let's go back, I'm going to say, let's go back 30 years ago.
Yeah, you wouldn't even have to go back that far.
Yeah.
Are you going to make the comparison to, going to school with a shotgun in your gun rack?
No. I mean something like this could have happened and did happen. And it barely ever made it. You would hear about it and then, in the next storyline would be like, guess what? Eggs kill you. Right. It was like nobody cared. There was a shooting in Louisiana. And now it's like, it's because the government is so determined to disarm law-abiding citizens that every single gun, every single time you hear something about a shooting, it's going to be on the news.
Right.
And then anti-gun groups are going to explode.
Right, exactly. They're going to lose their minds over it. This is exactly why we need common sense gun reform and all that kind of stuff. Like, never mind the fact that, I haven't looked up what Louisiana's individual laws are, but I'm assuming that he bought that firearm from an FFL in which he did a background check, and he passed his background check, and probably was in legal possession of that firearm right up until he decided that he wanted to let his anger get in the way and convince him to do something incredibly stupid.
Right.
That's not the gun's fault. That's his own personal fault.
Yes.
There's a level of responsibility. If you are going to own a firearm, and we preach about this, if you're going to own a firearm, and you're going to carry a firearm, all right, you have to be able to hold yourself to a particular standard.
Right. But my question is let's, to put it in some sort of perspective, is if let's just put it like, maybe not a gun store, but, this guy walks into a knife store, he wants to buy a knife and whatnot, but yet somebody starts an instigating fight with him and he kills 3 people with a knife. Are you going to blame the knife manufacturer? Are you going to blame the knife itself? Are you going to ban knives now?
I mean, they tried to do that in London.
I mean, it's not... The thing is it doesn't... It's not the weapon that's causing this.
Right.
It's the people. It's the person wielding
right.
that weapon.
Absolutely. And you know, we need to dive down and investigate the reason why we are having a situation in which people are doing these sort of things. You have and the very people who want to ban the guns are part of the reason why this is actually even happening. Why it's getting worse.
Well, of course. It's going to get worse. The reason why it's going to get worse is people are going to make things worse so that the gun ban gets harsher, so things get stricter.
Oh, you mean the way that Democrats generate crises on purpose so that they can champion the resolution?
Yes.
Kind of like they do with the African American community.
I mean...
Noticing a trend here? But, no. When you have... It's going to be hard for somebody to be able to maintain a level of mental stability when they're in a position which, let's say, a young African American man is inundated from the age that he can understand that because of the color of your skin, police and white people are out to get you.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So from the age of 5 to 8, this child lives lives a life in which he's afraid 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And when the actual reality is the general populace of the United States, 95% of the people who live in the United States really don't care what his skin color is. It makes no difference to them at all whatsoever. None. 95% of the American population doesn't even know that this young man even exists.
Yeah, I know.
But they are out to get him.
It's just like 95 population don't even... Well, most of the population don't even realize I exist, you know?
Right.
They wouldn't even know my name if they even...
Right. So there's no point, but if you go through this country, you go through our society and look, everybody has got something that the media has driven and specifically directed at them for them to live in fear.
Well, and I think that's the case with a lot of different people, a lot of different cultures. I mean, even we have something instilled in us to live in fear.
Right. It's a survival. I mean, fear is part of a survival instinct to a point.
Right.
I mean, don't get me wrong, but they're taking it farther. You know, here's the thing. Here on Centerpiece, I want you guys to know our political ideal, the way we think society should be. It's simply this. As long as you're not hurting somebody else, do whatever you want. I mean, let's be honest. If two guys want to get married, they can get married. If you don't agree with gay marriage, don't have a gay marriage.
Okay. Well, I was going to say,
you know what I mean?
Within the limit of the laws, but
yeah. I mean, let's be honest. Laws are the general population of the laws they are there to protect the rights of the individual.
Right.
All right. Exactly. You have the right to life, so murder's illegal. You have the right to liberty, so kidnapping is illegal. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
All right. So within that aspect,
but the thing is, okay, so I don't.
So within that aspect, you know, if you want to own a gun, own a gun. If you don't like guns, don't buy one.
Exactly.
All right. Our ideal around here at Centerpiece is you do not get to enforce your ideal on me. If you don't like something, don't participate in it.
Right.
It's that simple. All right? That's all you got to do.
But the thing is there's too many people now, especially now that the left, now that liberals and Democrats have basically told them, you are allowed to push your opinions on other people. You are allowed to make people believe the way you believe. Because if they don't, you go burn their cities down. If you don't, you go beat them up. If you don't, you do this or you do that.
You know what that's called? Persecution.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of what I said last time when I talked on the show about how we're being persecuted at this point.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And that's,
it's just like the movie 1984. Conform or die.
You know, we're not at the die yet.
No,
but it's getting close.
Conform or I will beat upon you until you do. You know, Jason said it many times. The time to defend... If you try to defend yourself when they're closing the door to the boxcar, it's already too late. And y'all, I want you to understand, we are in the lines to be loaded on the boxcars right now.
I believe in one thing and one thing only, and that is my faith.
Yeah.
I believe in God. I do not, and I'll probably get a lot of backlash for this, for saying it. I do not believe that the Christian Bible is absolutely legit in everything that it says. No, that's why I typically do not fit into every Christian... That's why I don't typically fit into Christian churches.
You have faith.
I have faith.
Not religion.
Right. But I don't believe that the Christian Bible is...
the only one that's accurate.
Right. I don't. And that's only because I have friends from many faiths from different faiths that we've literally sat down and had talks about the differences in our own scriptures.
Right.
You know,
there's a lot of parallels.
The scriptures, the words in the Quran, the words in the Hebrew Bible, there's a lot of things that are the same. There's
right.
a lot of things that they speak of that, I'm not going to get all religious here, people. I'm sorry. I'm not going to do this right now. But there's a lot of things that are the same in each one of them, but there
right.
are a lot of differences. So do I believe that the Christian Bible is the one true Bible that is correct and all, the only one that's true? No, I don't.
Right.
And because of that, I don't fit into every single... I don't fit into today's modern Christian churches, but at the same time, what's happening is, like I said, I believe in one thing. I believe in God, and right now, what I'm seeing is
an ungodly society,
an absolute ungodly society.
Well, moving on to the next thing, we got to get moving on because we're going to run out of time if we don't. The Texas power outage.
Oh, cold.
Like cold.
And y'all, I am so sorry because I have seen so many pictures and memes of how people have been berating y'all about how you just can't handle it. Trust me, I hate the cold. Why I live in Indiana, where the wind makes my face cold, I don't know. But
yeah, we live where the air hurts our face.
How y'all are staying so strong down there, I don't know. Y'all are strong people, but you guys are not set up for this.
No.
And people really don't understand this. People do not understand at all that that's just like, my house is not built to withstand a hurricane.
Right.
So why?
Not many buildings are built to withstand a hurricane. That's a bad analogy.
I get that, but my house is insulated. My house is insulated. In the wintertime, it stays wet. It stays warm. It's well heated, and in the summertime, it stays cool because of the insulation and whatnot.
Kind of cool.
Texas is not built for that.
No.
They have to deal with 100+ degree weather down there almost constantly. So.
Well, not almost constantly, but
almost.
It was like I was explaining to our daughter. When you are building a home or a building, you have to take into consideration the general climate of that particular area that you're building this home or building.
Right.
Because the way that you build that building, to prepare for certain climate things, some of those preparations are mutually exclusive.
Right.
Meaning, if you prepare a house to deal with mostly hot weather, it actually makes it more vulnerable to cold weather.
Right.
And vice versa. When you have a house that you heavily insulate and seal up and everything like that, yeah, the cold doesn't get in, but if something happens to heat up the inside of the house, that heat doesn't get back out when you want it to cool down.
Right. But
so you have that situation going on. So Texas was not prepared to have something like this happen.
And it's also that money should have been spent to, and I agree with a lot of Texans, and I agree with some of the family members that we have in Texas, that money should have been spent to strengthen the already existing infrastructure. So to weatherize those
absolutely 100%. This as far as the power outage itself, the blame it's ERCOT.
Yeah.
Mismanagement by ERCOT.
Yeah.
Straight up 100%. Because 25% of Texas's power generation, 25% is renewables. They have roughly 23% of it comes from wind, and 2% comes from solar.
Yeah.
Well, that went down the day before the storm. It got so cold that they froze up because they didn't have any winterizing on it.
Right.
All right. So immediately, as soon as this storm hit, and it got real super brutal cold, all right, they were already down 25%.
Right.
Of their power, of their production capability. And natural gas and coal, they surged up to over 435% of their production capacity.
Right.
Like they were trying really hard to do everything they possibly could to make up the difference of that 25% that was missing.
Right.
But then it got so cold that you had situations where the lines, the natural gas lines on the rigs, on the processing plants, and they just all froze.
Right.
They
and like
literally
I said,
couldn't transport the gas.
That existing infrastructure should have been that should have been maintained better. It should have been weatherized. It should have been updated better.
But my question is too is how much of that relied on the power production. Because they had one situation where the cooling pond at a nuclear power plant started to freeze, so it shut the nuclear plant. It shut the nuclear plant down.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, there's just, you can't winterize water. You know what I mean? It's just gonna get cold and freeze.
But we had a discussion. Like I had a discussion like this on Twitter, and somebody said that other places with far more drastic weather temps, such as Alaska, have the solar panels and stuff like that, and they have these things with no issues.
Well, and I totally understand exactly what they're saying, but if you take that same equipment that's up in Alaska and you expose it to 100-degree temperatures, it's going to fry.
Right, exactly. So, you can't, you can use what you can use in Texas as far as solar energy, the type of solar panels that you can use there.
Right.
You can't use in Alaska. And if it gets freezing temperatures, of course you're going to have issues with when you get these solar panels that get covered with snow,
right?
Even simple cloud cover, like if enough cloud cover, you're not going to produce. It's not going to produce any energy,
right?
And then on top of that, you've got snow on top of it. That doesn't help,
right? And
then some of these people are experiencing their batteries being drained because of the cold, right? Well, everyone knows. I mean, especially with I've seen with my vehicle when your battery gets cold, zero power,
right?
So I mean. I don't know what to tell people. They're just like, oh, it's all because you didn't go to green energy. No, it's all because we are trying to go to green energy way too fast, and we are not ready for it. And existing infrastructures need to be maintained, they need to be weatherized, and they need to be updated.
Well, yeah, and I mean, it's the transition to green energy is not going to be something that it's not like AOC's Green New Deal. We can't just turn off the existing infrastructure and turn on the renewables. Like, it's not that I'm against renewables.
Right.
I'm not against renewables at all. They're a fantastic idea. The technology's just not there yet. We're getting there. We're getting a lot better. But it's just not there yet. Our technology has not reached a point where it's efficient enough for us to be able to rely on it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? The fossil fuel technology we've been using fossil fuel technology for hundreds of years now, so it's gonna and renewables using wind and solar and so on and so forth, that's only been around 20, 25, 30 years now.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's gonna take some time for that technology to catch up. We're making huge strides, but we're just not there yet.
And it just like looking through some of these things showing about the solar panels, and it basically states that solar panels that are being used in like Texas and areas like that, the coldest that they can properly that they're optimized to work is like 40 degrees Fahrenheit.
Right. And we're talking about sub-zero Fahrenheit temperatures in Texas. So I
don't understand.
Yeah, I mean, it's just the fact of the matter is that the situation in Texas can't be attributed to any one thing. All right, it was a perfect storm of situations in which you had a cold weather snap and snowstorm they weren't prepared for.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't happen very often. Do they happen? Yes, but not that often. You had a failure in renewables.
Was the last one?
You had a failure in renewables, partially because the technology's just not quite there yet for them. You know what I'm saying? And two, they weren't built with winterized with like antifreeze technology on them,
right?
Like we have up here and in Alaska. You have massive mismanagement across the state. So there's a lot of things that happened.
Yeah, and like I'm not against at all renewable energy because we're
going to run out of fossil fuels eventually.
I'm all for it. But we need to, slowly step into this.
Right.
We need to be prepared. And as we saw, we were not prepared.
No, he wasn't ready. No. All right, on that note, that does it for another episode of Centerpiece. Have a good evening.
Thanks for listening tonight. And remember, those who would give up essential liberty to purchase a little temporary safety deserve neither liberty nor safety. Benjamin Franklin. You can reach me at www.facebook.com/centerpiece. You can also email me at centerpieceshow@gmail.com, or you can shoot me a tweet at centerpieceshow on Twitter. Thanks again for listening.